Hello and welcome to Journey Intelligence Weekly, your briefing on the latest news and trends in the world of AI. I'm Jordan Roberts, here with Mark Pizzoli, and we're both with Journey Alliance, the proud sponsors of this series. Thank you for joining us. Before we get started, we would like this to be interactive. So if you have any questions, comments, or thoughts, please go ahead and drop them in the comments so that we can incorporate them in as we go along. And if at any point you're curious about how you can apply AI in your role, maybe some of the things that we share or, any other pieces of AI that you're curious about, you can scan that QR code or go to journey-alliance.com and view our AI page, and that'll give you more information about our AI training program. To start off, though, we are going to be showing you how to make a GPT. So I've got it open here on the side. If you pull up ChatGPT, I'm going to give you the very basics. So if you pull up ChatGPT, you'll see up at the top, the new chat search, you'll see GPTs. You'll click that, and then you will go to, in this case, you would hit create, but I have one created already that I'm going to be using. And we'll be going into the content repositioning. So this one that I've created is to help you find your content niche. A good use for GPTs maybe would be like bid proposal generators, standard operating process creator, things like that. But in this case, I've got this to help me position my content on LinkedIn. So I'm going to walk you through the pieces here. So you'll have two options. You have create and configure. So create allows you to create your GPT conversationally. You'll talk to ChatGPT and tell it what you want, and then it will configure in the back end for you. This is a really easy way to create the GPT. It doesn't require anything formal. You're literally just telling it what you want it to do.
So you just chat with it?
Yeah, you can just have a conversation. I don't want to mess up my GPT, so I'm not going to do an example here. But very conversational. It even has where you can dictate to it. So you can literally just talk to it and it will create, and then you can refine from there. Configuring gives you a little more granular control. So you'll see I have this long description here. And these are the directions. This is what I want it to do. This is how the GPT works, right? And then you have this section of conversation starters. So these would appear under the title that I have here, as you could just click it and it would ask that question automatically. So if I had a conversation starter that said, help me I'll spell position right, then it appears right there and I hit it. Of course, it won't work over here, but I'll hit it and it would go into the chat and we would start the process that I have outlined in this. Additionally, you can upload files. So if you have reference files, let's say you wanted this GPT to help troubleshoot a certain machine or device, you could put the instruction manuals in here and it would reference those manuals. I don't have any documents that I needed referenced for this specific one, so they're not there, but you can upload to, I think, about 10 files. And then you can recommend a model. So you can select among the model. Of course, if you're going to do O3 Pro, realize that it will have your GPT run a little slower.
Can the user can override that though, right? If they choose,
user can override it. Yes, they can choose. It'll show up as a creator recommends this model, and you can change to match the recommendation. But you don't have to do it. And then you can give it these capabilities like web search, canvas mode, image generation, code interpreter, which means that it can run code. It has this handy little question mark where you explain there. And then we have actions as well. This is a little more complex. This is your coding type stuff that I know nothing about. So I will stay in my lane and not show that.
I believe that's where you can connect your GPT to other services via API or via the new MCP protocol, which is the kind of the AI version of APIs. So you can have the GPT have access to other libraries of information that way.
Yeah, very good. Glad Mark knows. So it allows you to do all of that. And then on the side here, this is how you would test and refine. So if I, start off and say, help me, I can test and make sure that it flows the way that I want it to. And so I've told it to ask me 6 questions, one at a time. So I would go through and answer this. It's explaining the process to me. And I could test it. I've already done all that refinement here, so I won't need to do that. Be mindful though, when you are testing it, that this is a preview. And as soon as you go over here and make changes, whatever you've gotten over here will go away. Also, any of these documents that you share in here, people won't be able to see them if you're going to share this GPT out. The GPT will reference them. So as it says, it can reveal the files. But they're not going to be able to download the file, for example. But they could get all of the information in those files that you've uploaded. So if you are going to share GPTs or make them public, just be mindful of that. And it can also include the instructions. So if for some reason your instructions are proprietary, just be mindful of that as well.
You just touched on one of the interesting use cases for GPTs that I'm not sure a lot of people fully appreciate, right? Mm-hmm. That's that you can create a GPT and give somebody else at your company a link to it, and they can use it and kind of follow through the process and get the output without having to know how that GPT is made. So you could kind of create GPTs for certain departments that, hey, I want you to use this GPT in this situation. And then that's an extra tool you've given them, right?
Yeah, I will say I love doing that. Mark has created a few GPTs himself and shared them internally. And that has been really helpful. Mark is, I'll say, probably better at making GPTs than me. I'm pretty proud of this one I'm sharing, but it is really helpful to create GPTs for very specific tasks or team-oriented tasks and sharing them. You're very right. That is an incredible use for them. And then I've kind of gone in the order that I would be creating a GPT. So I don't title it first and I don't do the description. These 2 things are really important if you're sharing it. Your description is going to allow people to know what it is that this does. The name, kind of same thing. You're going to want to make sure you have a realistic title if you share it. You can also have ChatGPT generate an image for you.
Oh, now you triggered it. Now we have to wait.
Now we have to wait. So that's great. There we go. So now I have an image. I didn't really care about that before, but now I do. And then you can share. So it can be invite only. You can do anyone with the link. You can put it.
Yeah, we should run through these. So we have a Teams account here at Journey. So Jordan has the option here of having it shared. I would call it kind of silently shared with anyone at Journey, where if she hasn't given them the link, they won't be able to find it. And then the second option below that is it's just included in the Journey Alliance library of GPTs, if you will. So we have like an internal library of GPTs, and the same thing with the public. So that's a really good a good thing to hit on, I think. So I'm going to update that. The library of GPTs. So once you have them shared with you, you have you have the shared with me tab, right? And I'll have a list of GPTs that have been shared with me. And then, I have a list of GPTs, including marketing spelled incorrectly. So you have this library of GPTs, but also how you can share GPTs. There is like a GPT store, I would say. So you can find these GPTs that do very specific things. You don't have to make one. Sometimes they exist. So Humanizer, like I'm certainly not vouching for any of these. I've not used these, but they do have reviews on them. So you can select these. It has this rating. It tells you the capabilities and who made it. And so you don't actually have to make your own. Sometimes, the options exist, and it has all of these different categories as well. So I think this is a really useful thing as well. I do like to try to make them myself because I like to be able to control what's on the back end and also to know what's on the back end. But if you do end up using one of these, the people who created it cannot see what you do with it. Right.
So
they know you had a chat. They get a quantity, like a number of people that have chatted with it. They don't get any of your conversation.
No. And you can also leave a review for them as well.
Yeah, so. And you leave feedback, yeah.
Anything else you think people should know about GPTs? That's probably not a good idea, the medical one. Anyway, that just caught my eye.
I don't know. I think that I think they're easier than people think. So I would say that the one thing people should know is that anytime you have a situation where you have some kind of a prompt or a workflow or something that you do on a regular basis, or that multiple people need to be using the same exact workflow, and you have them copy and pasting, right, from like text documents to use the same prompts, you should probably be using a GPT instead. And then you can control what's in the back and share it with a link. And that way you can modify it and kind of maintain some predictability and some standardization. So, and they're much easier to create and deploy than you probably think they are. So that would be my number one takeaway for people.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, you can always go back and make edits as you explore with it and find what works, find what doesn't. That's, I think, the best thing about them. So yeah, let's jump into the news stories now. Mark, what have you heard in the news?
So it was a big week. Late last week, OpenAI announced their new ChatGPT agent mode. And it's been released to looks like Pro and Plus and Team members now. I just got access. I just saw that I got access today. So the difference. So this is a merging of their kind of giving. They're giving ChatGPT kind of operator mode, right, which was something only Pro had before, which was their first kind of attempt at an agent combined with like the deep research mode or the deep research tool. But what they've done here is they're actually giving ChatGPT like access to a virtual PC in the background, so that you can have it go complete a task, and it has a whole virtual PC available to it to do it. So it can run code, create files, collect information from various sources, combine them into reports. It can use a browser. It can use a terminal session. So it has a lot of tools available to it that it can run off and use to accomplish the task that you're asking it to accomplish. So I think this is a big step forward. I think this is where a lot of agents, like if you think about what an agent will likely look like in the future, this is a pretty this is a good first iteration on that. Getting these things out there, seeing how people actually use them, seeing where they work, where they don't work is a big first step, so that you could start to improve on it. It's not about getting it perfect. It's about kind of getting something out there and having people use it so you can learn from it. So I think that is it's a really big step forward this week. So pretty limited. I think only 40 messages a month for Plus and Teams users. Now keep in mind, like you could send a message. I think what they actually made is conversations as well, right? So you just like with deep research, you might send a message and then it might ask some clarifying questions until it really thinks it knows what the task is, and then it goes off and it works and it starts working on your behalf. So they've worked really hard to add really strong safety checks. So before any risky actions happen, it's going to come back for approval. That's the same thing operator used to do. So if you told it to go book you airline tickets, it's going to come back and confirm before it actually, puts your credit card number in and purchases the ticket. So, it's single agent, should be able to handle research, form filling, data analysis, should be able to log into your apps for you. Really should be interesting to see. I'm looking forward to spending a good amount of time with it over the next week or two.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. And I've seen some people already experimenting with it, and the things that it can do. It's not perfect, but I think something to keep in mind, and you kind of hit on it, is this is the worst it's ever going to be.
Right.
And what it can do right now is already pretty incredible. So this is just going to keep getting better. So definitely something to go ahead and be learning. And if it maybe doesn't get it quite right now, know that it will soon. Like it's not something to just give up on. But also on ChatGPT, in that kind of same vein of it's growing, it's getting better. So ChatGPT now handles 2.5 billion prompts a day, about 3,300 million in the US. That's up from 1 billion in December of last year. For perspective, Google averages about 14 billion daily searches. So more people are asking AI, not search engines, for answers. Most ChatGPT users are on the free mode. So that's kind of a problem for OpenAI to solve. But I think it's important to realize that the way that people are searching is changing. So if you're trying to, get business, just being on Google is not enough. You need to be showing up in AI as well. And that is going to require a different strategy and a different kind of mindset. More people are going to turn to ChatGPT to search. It's just a matter of time.
I think the one thing that's apparent, everyone knew this was going to happen, right? Like people have been talking about it for months. Like, oh, you got to start to optimize for AI engines. You can't just search engine optimize anymore. Now you have to AI optimize your websites. Mm-hmm. But what I think is happening is it's happening faster than people expected. So with ChatGPT, it's not apples to apples. 2.5 billion, ChatGPT searches versus 14 billion Google. It's not apples to apples. When ChatGPT gets to 14 billion. Google's not going to be at 0, right? Because people are asking ChatGPT a bunch of different things that aren't things they would have searched the web for in the past. Yes. But additionally, the more they use ChatGPT for other things, the less they're going to want to go to a different portal when they can get a similar type answer right out of ChatGPT. So I think I'm sure Google is very, very nervous. This is the first time there has been any reputable threat to their search empire, if you will. So, and the fact that ChatGPT's usage has doubled in the last 8 months. I mean, if that continues, we're at 5 billion early in 26. We're at 10 billion prompts a day by the end of 26. By the a year and 4 months from now. So, it's just startling growth. To your point, though, so many people are still on the free tier of ChatGPT. Like, how are they going to monetize those users? They're either going to have to start introducing ads. How are they going to continue to support those volumes of queries? The money isn't going to flow forever, right?
Yeah,
the
it's
investment money is
definitely,
not going to flow forever.
yeah, they're definitely going to have to do ads or something. It'll be interesting to see how they handle that, honestly, because I think that'll answer some of the issues that are popping up in search and maybe people's paid search efforts. So maybe it'll, switch to AI. I think that'll just be an interesting thing to keep an eye on.
Yeah. The other thing that I think is going to really be, so interestingly, I was on a call with a client this morning, and they got someone called in for an estimate for their service. And when they asked, "Oh, how did you hear about us?" It was the first time they heard someone say, "Oh, I heard about you on ChatGPT."
Wow.
They haven't done anything specific about being included in ChatGPT, but that's how the person heard about them. So what's interesting to me is the next logical question for me, right? If I say, "Hey, I need someone that can do X," and I get a recommendation from ChatGPT, I'm going to be like, "Why is this the right?" Like, I'm going to ask why, right? Like,
Yeah.
why are you recommending them? Why are they the right company? And now you have to also curate your reputation online, which you probably should be doing anyway. If you're a small business and you're gaining customers online, but your reputation, but from everywhere, not just your Google reviews, like anything someone might have said about you on Reddit, like in passing, or like all of that stuff is going to start to matter because it's all out there and it can all be included in that kind of a result. So, I think continually kind of managing your reputation is going to be super, super important in the future. And that's and how ChatGPT, we have no idea how ChatGPT at this point is choosing who to recommend in a given situation, right? I think that's still a big question mark. So so companies are just trying to make it so that information about their company is just readily available. So
yeah. Well, both Gemini and ChatGPT are smarter officially. They both hit gold at an international math Olympiad. They answered these questions. They did 5 out of 6 of these questions correctly. They're both the first AIs to do so. So they reasoned using natural language, using parallel thinking, and they explored multiple solution paths to get these answers. They both still missed the hardest problem, which the teenagers they were competing against were able to do. I would say these are not normal teenagers. These are like super genius teenagers, though. So we need to be mindful of that. But it's just really interesting that they'll be able to tackle tougher data and planning tasks soon, given that they're getting better at solving difficult problems like that. So pretty cool update.
It's interesting, but as Jordan mentioned earlier, every day when you use AI, that's the worst it's ever going to be, right? All it used to do is make advancements. So, and this is just moral on that same front. So, I saw this. I thought it was interesting. We're starting to see basically, so you got researchers from OpenAI, Google DeepMind, and Anthropic, right? Which are the big 3 essentially. You've still got Meta and Grok out there, but from a research standpoint, a lot of the research is coming out of those 3 places, and they're calling for more study on on understanding how AI reasons and what it does, what it's called chain of thought. So when you use a reasoning model with AI, like a 4.0 mini or an O3 in ChatGPT, and you ask it a question, it goes through a series of steps, and you see them on the screen a lot of times, and it goes through a series of steps asking, what is this user really, I think this is what the user is actually trying to accomplish, this is what they really want. And it's kind of deciphering what you asked for into the discrete question you really want asked. Well, it's reasoning through, right? It's using other information it has, other context it has to figure out what you really want and to get you the answer you want. So there's a few interesting things here. Like the way AIs reason has really been what's made them the most powerful here. The non-reasoning AIs cannot accomplish things like the Math Olympics we talked about, things like that. Those are not, like, the standard AIs cannot do those things in one pass. They can't come up with answers. They really need to be able to reason through things. They ask, and you ask one query, and they might process hundreds of queries as they try to think through what you're asking. So I think it's a really important area of study because it's how we're fundamentally going to get better. AI is probably going to get better by us guiding it in how it thinks better. At this point, unless we come up with a different type of a data analysis, right? They use neural networks for AI. Unless we switch from neural networks to some other kind of networks or something else, we're probably not going to see huge gains on the back end, but we will see really big gains on how we kind of tell those networks to work together, if you will. So this area of study is kind of where we tend to see we will tend to see most of the gains, but it's also where everyone's being the most secretive because they don't want everyone else to see what they're doing because this is how they get an advantage. When you see something like this happening in an industry that's burgeoning, in my opinion, it's usually the sign that, like, the biggest 3 players are done. They're starting to stabilize, and they don't want anyone else to sneak in. And so basically what they're asking for is regulation. And so they're asking for regulation because they want to make it harder for startups to kind of sneak in on their turf. So I mean, it sounds good. It sounds altruistic on the surface, but it rarely actually is, right? Like, when companies are asking for regulation, it's usually because they're trying to squeeze out smaller players because they can afford to manage the regulation, and they know startups and smaller companies won't be able to. So, but it's also a sign, I think, that the industry is maturing, which has happened, as many of us can attest to, very, very quickly.
Yeah, I know that, as you said, it could be to squeeze out the smaller players. I think it would be great to know how these things are actually working, though.
I think it's absolutely necessary in the long run, right? How can we, if they're not auditable, how can we? I just don't think we can ever get to a place where we truly trust them, right? Like,
no, yeah. Like, you can't hold a machine accountable if you don't know how it's thinking. Yeah.
When it makes a mistake, you got to be able to go fix it so it doesn't make the mistake again. So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Otherwise, it's just kind of scary.
Yeah.
So one final news story here to close us out. This is really not a surprise, this one, but a Pew Research Center study found that when Google shows an AI summary, that AI overview that it shows you at the top of the search results, clicks on regular links drop from 15% to 8%, and only 1% of users click the source link that's in the AI box. I am that 1% because I like to double check, but users also end sessions more quickly after seeing AI summaries. So that's 26% versus 16. Sometimes there are 0-click new searches. That's up 70% after AI overview is launched. And people are getting really worried about this reasonably because they're not getting traffic to their websites. So that's kind of a major problem. If your website or your business really relies on organic search on Google Ads, things like that for business, you're going to need to kind of pivot your strategy, relying on direct channels like emails or newsletters, or, as we were talking about earlier, figure out what is going to make you appear in ChatGPT search as well, or Gemini search, what have you, because people are hitting that AI summary and they're not really going much further.
Yeah, I think where this really hits home is if you're if your content on your, if people come to your site to read your content, and then you are monetizing that traffic through advertising, or that's how you get them to your site, they get the answer they want, and then maybe they dig a little deeper, and then they fill out a form, that is going to get that much more challenging, because they're not going to have to come to your site for the answer. The answer is going to go right to the top of the page. You've seen it. Everyone's seen it. You go search on Google these days, and like the answer comes up on the first page. It's fantastic for the user. Great user experience.
Yeah.
But it's going to be a real challenge for websites in the future. So,
yeah. Well, that will close us out for today. Thanks everyone for joining us. Again, if you are interested in using AI in your role, getting ahead of this learning curve that you're seeing us talk about, you can scan that QR code in the corner, or you can go, there you go, or you can go to journey-alliance.com and check out our AI page, and that will show you more about our AI training. We will be back here next Thursday, 3 p.m. Eastern. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.